There we go. Hey, great to see everybody. Thanks for joining I believe we're at number 11 for our weekly consensus meetings. And we're going to go for the next 45 minutes. We're going to break into, we'll see, we might even have one room instead of breaking into two. I'll see right away. And the whole point of this consensus making is to try out the Go Fractally new way to come to consensus. A lot of the different blockchain consensus models uses how many tokens you have in your wallet to weight your vote. And this one we feel is a little bit more open. All you have to do is participate, give an hour of your time, and at the end of it, we rank each other on who we think contributed the most. And what we're ranking are two things: who contributed the most to Alien Worlds, its tools, whether it's support, basically anything you've done for Alien Worlds. And because we're quite focused on governance, what have you done in governance? So it's kind of this last week. Some of you are new, by all means, just share your passions. We kind of have a 3-minute sharing where everyone goes around in the group just to share what you've done. And then we break into our consensus, and we need a 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 6 to reach consensus. And at the end of it, then we send out a distribution of NFTs. We are using NFT backers to back all the NFTs with Trillium and KROWN. And yeah, we feel it's important, especially with the new news of Alien Worlds opening up the elections to be a council member on planets, that this could help either the council members, different communities, their teams. So yeah, I'm going to run for a council member myself, and my whole election is going to be using this process to come to consensus, for work and how to transfer funds and where the money is going to go. But yeah, that's a quick recap. I kind of put up the agenda but didn't scroll through it. But the bottom line is our first little breakout room is sharing what you've done, what you're passionate about. And then the second part for 20 minutes is coming to consensus. And yeah, go from there. Is there any questions before we jump into this? Questions, comments?
Was a quick comment. Yeah. Sometimes it was useful to assign a timekeeper that will remind people.
Are we? We're
time
not.
And at the beginning to go like how many people in the group and how much time would everyone have, so that you're not running into, being stressed out at the end.
Are we dividing it?
That's up to everyone. Today?
Yeah, I think, we'll break out into 2 rooms. We've got, 8 people? So 2 rooms of 4. Yeah. Well, perfect. And we have a few people that have been in the meeting, so obviously we can help everybody that's new to the meetings. Yeah, Dan, you had something to say?
Yeah, I was going to ask, are we using the tool that Vlad built to make consensus today?
Yeah, we will. And I'm still going through some bugs on my side on it. So we'll use it, and then we'll also just post in the chat so we have a little bit of a backup. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Excellent. All right, guys, I'll break us into 2 rooms here. We'll see you back at the top of the hour. Hello, hello. We have one person drop off, maybe,
Hey.
eh?
I didn't even know you could do rooms. This is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, they're very cool. I use them in teaching all the time. Break the students into room, and then as the teacher, you can pop in with each room and help people.
We'll just wait for a second. It looks like Jason's going to be joining. He just hasn't joined yet.
Yeah. And some people, if they pop out, when they pop back in, they'll pop in the main room. So you can check that too.
Yeah.
Then reassign them. I gave us a little buffer, so I put a timer.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Dwayne, I've never done this before. Am I supposed to join on Go Fractally or something?
I can send you the kind of the link here in the chat to join the kind of the group where we post a lot of results. Let
Okay.
me just bring it up here. And then just in, if you right click on your video name, just in brackets, what we post to the blockchain on Wax is just your Wax address. So if you just put it in brackets, you're able to rename your name just by right clicking your video.
Say that again.
Just Eric, I have yours, and I probably even have Steve's, but just so I get it, so I can scrape everyone's Wax address. If you just change your name in the video by right clicking your video, and then there's a rename function, and yeah, you can just put it in brackets or something like that. Well, we can kind of start, and maybe Eric will get you to start, and Steve will kind of see the format. Jason usually joins, he just hasn't joined the room, so we'll see if he ends up joining us or not here.
You want me to go, or are we still waiting for
Yeah, I
Jason?
think we might as well start it off, Eric. Yeah, I'll get you to start.
Sure. The first thing I try and do every week is figure out how to make myself more useful and give myself more ability. So I thought, since this is a gaming group, I would learn about gamification of this whole Fractally process. So I met with Matt Langston and talked to him learned about the dashboard, what went into it, what it could do. And we talked about being able to apply it here. He said, that's fine. We can use it for this, help us set it up. Said it'd be pretty easy to use the dashboard, the fractal dashboard for this group. But we also talked beyond that about using it in real groups, because we know that gamers, to make it useful, need it to appear in what they're doing, whether it's an app or Discord or something like that. So he's well suited to do those discussions. The other thing we did is, I thought we had then I look at how can I share this. We had one of the best, I think, live streams, one of my favorite, for the metaverse. And we, again, every time we talk about gaming, so we promote that there. Had 2 new conversations this week about more equal animals. I invited 2 more people to the group. So far, I've had 2 that have signed up, got little notifications that you're in there. I kind of took a step back because I focused on getting people that can bring more people in rather than worrying about individuals. For a couple of weeks, I stepped back, and so I brought in the head of an association. Why? So he can bring in the rest of the association. And Sharif, as you know, is one. Why? Because he has a network of people we can bring in. So I focused on bringing people who had networks in, and that worked pretty well. In August, I launched the Building the Metaverse podcast. And so the first week I recorded Dan Larimer's interview. The second week I made the logo, and you can see behind me, and then the animation. The next week I dragged and dropped all the content, did the first level, edit it. So where I'm right now is, hopefully I'll finish it this week or next week, as I'm putting in the B-roll and all that. So should be able to publish the Dan Larimer interview. And then I can start working on the interview I did with Dwayne, which covers the alien worlds and all that. Most of them mentioned that. I recorded a new podcast with Ami Hines this week. And then I'm looking to do something real. So I had more conversations with the Art Institute. I'm meeting with them again on Sundays about introducing this into real group, but the discussion this week focused on, can we get a gaming art group to talk about the art, and can we bring that into the Fractal? I also talked about using Fractally for athletics. So I talked with a coach this week about using that. I also talked with about a school that's distributed. So I talked to the Filipino school this week about doing that. And then of course I've been mining Dwayne's land and working on dark galaxies as a planet holder and land to do that. So that's what I have.
Nice.
So Jason, are you there?
I'm back now. Yeah, sorry guys, I had a phone call come in.
Cool. Well,
No worries.
Maybe you can go next, since Steven's just getting used to this.
Happy to, yeah. Turn the video on. Sorry about that delay. This week has been a bit of a whirlwind. In the world of governance, in the world of Fractally, my discussions have been about collective unboxing, like coordinated unboxing for consumer reviews. I think that there's a pretty good use case for delivery time and for the consistency of the product coming out of the box. And we know that it's a fit in the way of video making. And since Fractally, everyone is recording their own video and capturing the content of their own production, that it's a good exercise to do together. And it's a proof of consistency in the supply chain, that everyone's receiving the same things as each other. And beyond that, I think that beyond unboxing, I think that there's a use case for insurance contract holders for the client side of that. And that we tried doing some research to see which insurance companies are most likely to give you a hard time about receiving your benefit. We know that insurance adjusters and actuaries inspect a claim. If anyone ever claims a benefit on an insurance contract they hold, that it can take a long time, and sometimes people don't know the exact detail of the contract, and there are like waivers and there are terms in there that they didn't expect, and it can be difficult for contract holders to actually receive their benefit. But there's no solid research into that to show, there's no like solid consumer review quite into that to give transparency to the consumer market to know which insurance company or companies or how they each perform in that way. So I think I'd like to do a Fractally for that industry to gather the experiences of people who have insurance or have had insurance. I think I might be up with that, but those are at the top of my radar. I mean, that all fits under the umbrella of Crypto Oasis, my meetup, where we'll be organizing the group to group activities, incentivized the same way. So that's my week. That's my week for Fractally and governance. I apologize for having missed Eric's at least. I know I missed Eric's. I suppose I missed Wayne's too. Did I?
Oh, just Eric's.
Oh.
It's pretty large too. How to take notes.
Oh.
All right, I'll give you guys a quick recap. I'm distracted doing other things in the quote unquote real world, but huge success. I was a few weeks behind in posting our consensus and getting out the NFTs. And the NFTs, Steven's backend, the NFT backers, it's quite easy. Like I use Atomic and use a template just to create the NFTs every week based on the participants. So last week we had 8 people. I print 2 mythical, 2 of this, and then go over to NFT backers, and I press a button and back it once with Trillium, and then press a button again and back it with KROWN. So simple process, but like anything, when you're just copying and pasting from a spreadsheet, you want to be in the mindset so you're not making mistakes. So I finally found the time to get it all done. We do have a little bit of a leaderboard in the sense that all of our rankings are posted to Wax in the form of the ƒractal token. So last week we used this new tool. I'm just going to post the tool here that Vlad made, where it kind of automatically sends out the fractals based on our consensus. And let's see if it's here. And I just have had some back and forth with Vlad. There's still something about the contract keys. I'm not quite sure. We're going to try and use this tool, but I might, we'll just back it up by posting in the chat as well. And let me find it here. Here we go. So yeah, did a like Eric mentioned in his, we have this weekly Dr. Sharif meetup. That was one of the funner ones that went really well. Done a few other interviews, and now next week I'm going to be back home, back in Costa Rica. So I'm going to get on with the interviews now that it's been announced officially from Alien Worlds that elections are on, that you can put your name in the ring for a council member. So I think I'll be able to scrape a list of who's the updated list of who's going for council members and start interviewing them and start, introducing them to this ƒractal process. And one thing that Eric mentioned was Matt Langston is doing that, all those stats. And that's going to be huge for us to work with him for this Go ƒractal, how to, gamify that a bit more. I'm sure if I posted more of the leaderboards and more of the points and kind of hyped more of the gamification, I could draw some more people in as well. So I'm going to get onto that. But yeah, busy week. I feel that I finally caught up and deserve some respect because I just busted out a whole bunch of NFTs. So that's about it. Last week, sometimes we kind of say how we ranked. And last week was week number 10, I believe. And I ranked second from the top. So legendary, or ranked number 5. All right. And I'll pass it over to Steve.
Hey guys. Eric, I haven't met you. Jason, I've met you on a call with Extra. So, and of course, Dwayne. So I'll just back up to July. We did a soft launch of NFT backers in July, and we started that for LD2 so that we could do some silver backed NFTs and be able to attach silver directly to NFTs. But then it expanded from there, and we were talking to Dwayne and found out about you guys. So we set up so that you can back with Trillium and KROWN tokens. And so that's been going pretty great. And then we had some challenges when we were building NFT backers. We kept running into issues with the Atomic Assets APIs, and we're getting really frustrated with it and didn't really see any great support from the Atomic developer community. They all just recommended, well, go set up your own API nodes and fix it yourself. So, and that's obviously that, I don't know if you're familiar, but that cost $1 to $2 grand a month to set that up and run yourself. So we thought there had to be a better way. So we started to look into ways to pull all the Atomic Assets data into an Elasticsearch database, start analyzing it, and then building our APIs around that, kind of prototyping it. And then at the beginning of August, we had an aha moment and said, this isn't just our problem. This is a problem that the entire community is having. Every single dApp developer on Atomic Assets is running into this. And so we started to look into drafting a white paper of what this would look like as a community API that would eventually replace the Atomic Assets APIs that they have out there that are not being supported very well. So, and in the process, augment what you can do with them. So you're not just getting the current data, you could start doing some data mining and really analyze the data across all NFTs, across all collections, and see what kind of new things you can discover, and then start to build new tools off of that. So one of the experimental things that we had done off of our prototype was, you're probably familiar on OpenSea, how they have the different, what do they call them? The properties, the different traits of the NFTs. And then they'll say, you know, like 75% of the NFTs have this trait, or 35% have this trait. And that's not something that you can calculate very easily using the Atomic Assets APIs, but we discovered through what we were doing, that's something that's very easy to do once you pull the data off chain and start building a new layer 2 solution. So that's just kind of a low-hanging fruit that we hit. But this last week, we actually started launching labs.nftbackers.io, and the whole goal is that of that is to bring a community together of partners who are interested in a new way of looking at the data, a new API for all of Atomic Assets data, and really get some weight behind us right before we do a wax proposal for a new API to actually get funding to build out this whole thing. So, and then from that, I started talking to Dwayne and figured out you guys have a pretty good group here, and why not start, you know, talking to you guys and getting feedback and see where we go, see if we can make this happen.
Yeah, that's huge stuff. You know what I mean? That's all these systems we're using on Wax. So, you know, we're you know, obviously, you know, Alien Worlds and all these games. We had Jordan create a beginning of a drop tool, and I'm going to connect you with him. And it's yeah, this is core infrastructure, and it's quite, you know, quite a bit larger than these little pieces of just Alien Worlds or our drop tool. Like you said, it's keeping up to the people that are leading the market over on Ethereum, like OpenSea. And as a block producer, I just know how much how things are not working in the back end for history, and not necessarily, you know, some of it's seen as success, right? When you have so many games, so much data, you know, the only thing they can say is, well, you know, this is success because we have so much data. But the problem is we're not utilizing that the right way. And, you know, the history solutions that are out there aren't working. So yeah, that's effing awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because Atomic Assets API ends up being the only source for some of this data. Like if you want to find out who owns a particular asset, you can only do that through the API. You can't even do that on chain because you have to, all the assets are scoped in the assets table by owner. So unless you search through every single asset, you're never going to be able to figure that stuff out. So, and all the data that's coming in, it's great. 290 million NFTs is what Atomic Assets says that have been minted in the 2 years. What they're not addressing, though, is that amount of data is breaking the back of all the current tools. And we just need to find a better way to do this for ourselves and for the future developers that we want, and creative dApps that we want to come to the Wax blockchains.
That's awesome. My block producer is not up right now. I'm looking for a new backend guy. But if you look what you need to be a block producer on Wax, you need a big project like this. So I'm going to do some calculations on seeing what it's going to cost to get someone, you know, in that seat. I have one person interested. They just want a wage, but you know, I'm sure a lot of other block producers would back you on this. because they need to be part of a project just to get paid. But if you give me a little bit of a time to see if it's worthwhile, maybe see if it's worthwhile for us, because I know you're going to need some funding, and if we can piggyback that with a block producer that this makes them get funding, maybe there's something there too. But this is, you'll get some you'll get some good feedback from the community for sure. And those block producers are motivated. They're forced to do more than produce blocks in order to get paid. So if you look at, some of these people like Nifty Blocks, they became a block producer. They're always going to be in a paid position. So they kind of had, it's more about producing blocks is just the basics. They're pushing their block producers to create new tools, new things. And this one's a big project. Like, it would last a while, needs funding, it would, keep you up in that paid rank. So I'm digressing from our next steps here, but yeah, I just wanted to share that with you while we're on here.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Eric seems to be jumping in and out. I think he's having some connection problems. Let me just see where he's at here. Eric, assigned to room number 2. There we go.
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, I think we got him. All right. Oh, you're in that's half side up parallel universe. Oh, there you go.
I don't know. I don't know why my phone is not doing that. That's the way it should go. So weird.
I found in Mighty Networks it doesn't flip. You can flip your phone and like it'll adjust, but Mighty Networks does not do that for you.
I'm surprised. Yeah. All right.
All right, we got good time. We're 20 minutes to. You want to start the our consensus part of our meeting? Oh, you mute. We hardly can hear you. I can't hear you, Eric. Very muted.
Yeah.
How about now? Any better?
That's good.
That's good.
Loud and clear.
So can you tell me a little more about NFT backers? I got the kind of gist, but I don't think I got the full impact of why that. I got that it's cool. I like what I'm hearing, but I'm not sure I really got the whole impact of why it is so cool for what we're doing.
What part of, what's the last thing you heard me say?
I heard you say everything.
Oh, okay.
I heard everything. We were done with the whole contribution reports, and that's when my computer crashed.
So NFT backers there's currently no way to attach other tokens besides wax to NFTs. Atomic Assets had made it an option. It's something that is possible on their contracts, but they have never followed through and allowed anybody else to do anything else with it. So the way to get around that is to actually build that functionality outside of Atomic Assets contracts. And we take some extra steps to ensure that the backing is actually there. So I can send you a link here for a NFT that's actually backed, and it'll show you the full on-chain verification of the silver on it. You can actually do that on any of your NFTs that you have received, through this Fractally. There's a button on there that says verify, and it will go through and show you the on-chain custody of all those assets that are attached to the NFT. So it's kind of a way to build trust around attaching more value to NFTs. And I think the biggest part of it is that you have collections that will publish a bunch of assets or NFTs, and the price of them goes up, skyrockets, and then maybe there's a rug pull, or people lose faith in the community for some reason. The value of those NFTs just crashes. If you can attach value like this to those NFTs up front, So have like a collection that I was working on is IBM PC NFT experience, and we were getting ready to attach silver to the NFTs. So if the value of the NFT crashes, you can just burn the NFT and get the silver out. You don't have to lose everything.
Okay, so I could get an NFT from Dwayne, add something to it, transfer it to Jason. When Jason transfers it to you, all that added stays with it.
Sort of. That capability is there, but right now we're focused on collections themselves, attaching the value to those NFTs, so it's more clear what that NFT is backed with up front. Kind of like these NFTs that Dwayne is distributing for this Fractally. You have a mythical level 3 or whatever has a certain amount of Trillium and a certain amount of KROWN tokens attached to it.
Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Awesome. So for this part, we've gone through a couple experiments of how to start off coming to consensus, and some of the learnings were, the louder people, more boisterous, can kind of lead the whole group. So we kind of switched, instead of someone just saying, "Hey, I think Eric's the best," and then everyone just goes, "Oh, okay, well, let's get this meeting over with. We'll just agree with Dwayne and do it." It seems a little bit better if we do it a little bit randomly. So what we do, not random, but what we do is we type whoever we think earned the top respect, so whoever contributed the most in the last week or in the last little while, and just type their name into the chat. And maybe I'll get Jason to lead it. He's always the really nice moderator for these to kind of count us down and stuff, make sure that we hear everyone's opinion. But we do a 3, 2, 1 countdown, put it in the chat. And if there's 4 out of 4 consensus, we kind of just move around to the next round. And if not, if we don't come to consensus, we discuss it, see why people voted the way they did. And at the end of it, we'll have a list with the person that we think contributed the most to, 4 of our names. And the top person gets a mythical NFT and down from there. So, and we do have to come to consensus as a group to get any rewards or any of these NFTs and fractals and respect at all. So it's kind of the challenge. And we are not the clever people that thought of any of this. I'm managing, this meetup, but we're really taking a book out of More Equal Animals and Dan Larimer's Go Fractally group, right? And solving a few use cases. Obviously, this does proof of person for us, right? And we just know that, like alien worlds in different places, we need trusted people to be elected into positions, but we kind of see that token weighted, disenfranchises a lot of people. Just a couple whales can get, can kind of sway the vote. So finding that this experiment might be more equitable. The cool thing is that their Go Fractally blockchain is going to be live probably in the next month. And the only way for anybody to get tokens out of that whole chain is to participate in meetings just like this. So that's my little spiel, and I'll let Jason take it away.
Hey, Dwayne, did you want me voting or?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we all, this room of 4, we all have to come to consensus to complete our task. You bet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and this is never an accurate science. None of us can validate in this time if you've done what you've done. It's a long-term experiment that averages out over time, right? So it's not an exact science. I found it more. It's a great networking time, and it's just helping us practice fractal governance.
Well, and the key here is that what we're doing is we're leveraging the wisdom of the crowds, which only works if you have multiple people independently look at something. So if it ends up groupthink where somebody announces and you follow, it doesn't work. So the idea is to randomize people so you get value just from being here and using as part of our neural network, so to speak. There's value just for that. But I also think 3 out of 4 is consensus, isn't it? 4 people, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it ends up being like 60 something percent with the white paper, and this is 75%. So I think 3 out of 4 is consensus for this size group.
Yeah, for sure.
And right before we cast the first vote, I'll confess that I didn't hear very much of Eric's introduction, but I'm going to vote for Eric to be level 6, probably, because I can see that he's on top of this stuff, and we'll see what the other two vote.
Yeah,
So
I'll recap that for you too, Jason. Like the biggest, Eric had a great presentation, but the new things that you've added, Eric, in this last one was really going after the leaders of organizations and the art organizations and some other groups. We always talk about funnels of bringing people in. Yeah, Eric's putting some hard work into that in this last little while. So that was kind of my quick recap. Eric, if you want to give a little bit more for Jason, by all means, we have a bit of time.
And the only other thing was talking about how we can add gamification to bring more people in and keep them in by making it more fun. And to do that, I worked with Matt Langston about moving the ƒractal dashboard to use for the Alien Worlds fractal. So part of it is we can move that in there so you get a leaderboard, which always excites gamers. And then the other part of that is working on what happens after it rolls out. And the future part is giving Matt feedback so he can have notifications and things. So gamers can say, oh, Jason just pulled ahead of you to this, so you get that notifications is the other piece that I worked on this week.
Excellent. Truly excellent. Thank you for catching up to speed on that. And so in the interest of keeping us on time, I think that we should right into the chat, level 6, and get ourselves started here.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Are we doing a 3, 2, 1 or?
Of course, yeah. I was waiting for a start. And so we'll type the name of the person in, right?
Yep.
If everyone's got the name of the person in, does anybody need more time? Hearing none, we'll do a quick countdown and a 3, 2, 1 to send. Okay, Eric voted for Dwayne, but we have a consensus for Eric. So, Eric, is it something you would insist on changing our minds about? Would you like to give us your reasoning for Dwayne? Why Dwayne instead of just
Dwayne just keeps this going, and I think he made some significant connections this week. Besides catching up, he's busy working on the tool that's going to help us.
Good enough reason. We do have a consensus that's for you, though. Do you accept that outcome?
Okay, I do.
Okay, then we can go to level 5.
Hey, what are the different levels?
They are a Fibonacci multiplier that assigns the percentage of reward tokens to the order. So level 6 receives what calculates out to 38% of the reward, and level 5 would receive what calculates out to 25%, I believe. And then the Fibonacci sequence, level 4 would get 13%, and right on down, right? And that
I gotcha.
So
Yeah.
we use that. Even though there are only 4 of us, the reward will be distributed so that the person who gets, in our case, level 3 will be the bottom rung to get the remainder of the reward for the group. Is that right?
And it's dictated that you vote for someone different for each level, or is it, Eric already got level 6, or can he get level 5 again?
No. Just
Okay.
just one.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a ranking. This is a ranking output.
Got it. I'm learning here.
Of course, I'm glad I answered right. So we typed in level 5 in the chat. So what we do is we all like keep a copy of this, right? So we show that our agreement is sound. So for level 5, we do the same thing. We write the name of the person in the chat that we want to vote for at this level. Second largest contribution this week. Does anybody need more time to type in the name of the person?
Yep.
Okay, hearing none, we'll do a countdown. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, we've got 3 for Dwayne and 1 for Steve. So I'd like to ask Dwayne, rationale? No?
Two things. I always like when new people show up to give them some extra respect, because once you form a habit and we're always here, it's a little bit easier. So just making the time, I try and reward that a little bit more. And yeah, just knowing the amount of work that Steve's done. I remember, I gave him like minutes or hours before I wanted to use the tool, and he was up all night working on it. And then I just know that the amount of thought and effort, and just looking at the website of that labs and how that directly affects us, and how that affects the tools and everything else we're talking about, is huge. So to say I can draw a direct link on how that helps this group, and how it helps Wax, and how it helps Alien Worlds. So, and I've just seen it as a big issue, and it's not a small challenge. You know what I mean? It's not this. Matt Langston's tool is a nice little tool. If I was to rate that, like, this is fundamental broken layer versus building some tools that add some value. This is pretty huge. So it just shows a really big commitment to this space as well, because there's other blockchains, there's problems everywhere. So I just think it's out of all the projects I've seen to address real issues that people don't like to talk about, this is probably the biggest one. So that's the reasons why I put them up there.
I mean, so strong rationale for sure, though there is a consensus for you. Do you want to persuade us to change our votes, or are you?
In the sake of time, we've got 5 minutes. I just wanted to let everyone know why I voted, but I'll graciously take that spot. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll accept that outcome. I mean, good enough rationale, and it anchors the next vote, obviously, right? So we'll type in level 4. Dwayne's already finding ways to, as they say, bend the curve. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll type in the name of the person we'd like to vote for level 4. In the chat, does anybody need more time to type that name? Hearing none, I'll do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Well, Steve and I both voted for each other, and Eric and Dwayne both voted for Steve. We have 3 for Steve. We have 1 for me. So, Steve, you voted for me. Do you want to persuade everybody to change their votes, or will you accept the outcome of consensus for yourself?
I'll just say I'm the new guy here, so I'm just feeling my way along, but sounds like you did a lot this week too, but I'll happily accept.
I think that's right. I think that's probably the correct actual assessment for this week.
And I think that one of the key here is that everybody gets rewarded. So it's not like
That's right.
it's not like there's a loser. If you just show up, you get rewarded. It's just like, what did you do this week? And I have ultimate respect for what Jason does. He's one of my favorite people to talk to, very thoughtful. If I need a different outlook for something, I go to Jason, because I know he's not going to think like I do. We have a lot in common the way we think, but he's going to bring up different aspects of things. So I think that's really valuable.
Thanks. I mean, like, maybe there's scarcity to it, and maybe there's difficulty to it, but it's like,
well,
it's
so
difficult to cut down a tree with your teeth. I don't know. Ask a beaver.
And I think where Jason can really come in is there's 2 things that this is for. Is one is coming to consensus over what this group is, what the goals are, and how we achieve them. And the other one is ranking people on how much contribution each person is doing to achieving those goals. And I think Jason is really valuable when we get to that point of talking about what we're trying to do and why. He's very thoughtful of taking this apart and doing that.
Yeah,
So at this
thanks.
point, we've mostly been practicing, but I think probably sooner than later now, we're going to come to that point where we start saying, well, what do we want to do with all this talent? And I think Jason's going to rise up in that ranking when he does that, because he has a lot of value toward putting proposals and analyzing proposals and those kind of things.
Yep. I agree.
I appreciate that. You know, like people form friendships based on mutual respects. You know that, right? That it's a known thing in social sciences that people are attracted to those that they consider to be their equal in some way. In some way, they're equal. Like there are no perfect equivalencies between personalities. Different types of personalities appreciate each other, but they have to be on an equal footing in terms of, like, I don't know what.
Yeah, we've been
it's good to be part of a good team.
So should we just reach consensus really quickly here? Is that okay, or is it?
I
okay?
think we have to. We can't continue without reaching
By all
a
means.
consensus.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, we are at 2-2 with Sabre and I, and so I'm happy to go either way, just to resolve it quickly. So I suppose I had to, so I can change my vote for myself. I suppose is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, you didn't put your vote, and also Sabre didn't put the vote. So if you just put your votes into chat, then we're good. Hopefully.
Okay.
All right, now we're good. Thanks, guys. That was
Thank you.
like speed dating, only faster. I'll put it in a minute.
I think that's the first time that's happened where consensus hasn't been fully realized in at least in any of the meetings that I've been in. We're in the breakout room and it had to come into the main room after. So good job, guys.
Yeah, good job. That was a fun room. We went in pretty deep with a lot of the decisions and discussions, so it was very interesting.
Yep, as usual. I was like trying to force a point across just as the breakout room was closing about how people gravitate towards being on a winning team if they can, and how people gravitate towards those they consider to be their equal or superior, and that there's a whole dynamic in that, and that people who are different and have different styles, different strengths, right, different skills and professional domains, still find equivalencies with each other, still find mutual respect, and that's I think a universal sort of pattern in that. I think people always want to be part of a winning team, and they're trying to shape themselves to fit in with that somehow, some way. And I don't know. Those were enough, but these exercises are always so. I mean, interesting doesn't do it justice.
I need to jump off, guys. So goodbye for today, and maybe see you next week.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thanks for meeting
Bye-bye.
us.
That's great. Thanks, David. Great seeing you.
See you, David.
Yeah, I'm not going to be far behind David, but it was really interesting in our breakout room how just a short little chat and weighing up why you voted how you did changed the results the next time around that we had to go for consensus completely. And echoing what Jason said, like, it's really interesting how just putting a little bit of perspective on what you feel your worth is if you're voting for yourself, for example, can change other people's decision of you. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
good
really going to have
comment.
to go. I've got another meeting to jump onto, but I'd love to catch up with you all ASAP. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I shall see you at the earliest next Thursday.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks, man. It was great speaking to you today.
Thanks, everyone. Take
Always.
care.
Good night. Enjoy the
I've also got to get going soon too. First, I just got to go try to find portable headphones though, so I can just my phone. So I'll get back in a bit.
Here's dwindling down a little bit. What I was gonna segue onto from that first point is that the same thing came up last week in that everybody with their own sort of station in life and profession, whatever they do, whatever they're looking at, whatever's right in front of them. I mean, of course, the safe assumption is that to them, to that person, what they're doing is it is a rational choice. It is at least a justifiable choice within the entire set of opportunity costs, right? Because if a person does something, it's like if I watched a movie on Netflix, then I wasn't doing something else instead. I wasn't, I don't know what, pick a chore, doesn't matter, any chore, right? There's opportunity cost to the way people spend time, and that it would be very unexpected, I think, for somebody to show up at a ƒractal governance meeting and say, you know what, this week I actually really squandered my time. I really just I chose to work on the wrong thing. The thing that I chose to work on isn't really that important. It's probably not going to go anywhere. You know, I'm just sort of spinning my wheels on this non-starter, but that's what I spent my time on. You just don't hear that, right? Everybody shows up and it's like, yeah, I spent my time this week. This is what I did. And I think that is probably the best opportunity I had to spend my time on. And that's what I'm looking for always. I don't want ƒractal to devolve into a contest of whose job is more important than whose, because we have an expression on a construction site. We ask, who's the most important person on the construction site? And you know how everyone kind of scratches their heads a little bit and they're like, I don't know, like the client or the inspector or the general contractor. And no, the reason for that lesson is because the answer is the janitor. Because if the janitor doesn't make sure that the porta potty is clean, then nobody's coming back tomorrow. You know, like there is equivalency. There's equivalency to all contributions, because the entire structure of the organization depends on the bottom part of it too, the whole bottom and middle and everything. And that the reality of an organization is that the CEO alone can't do shit. Cannot run 5,000 workstations by themselves, right? If they lay off the whole staff and it's just one person left, it's like, you can't man all those stations. You just can't. You need everybody, and there's an equivalency to be found in that.
I'm going to spin some wheels.
Oh yeah, the wheels.
All right. So we don't have Marco today because Marco's taken lots of them lately. So I think that there's a more equitable chance here for the rest of us. All right. Left-hand side, 1,000 trillion. All right. Woohoo. Congrats. We'll be sending those out by the end of the day. And let's go to the right side here. Right side, big tokens, 1 million KROWN. Oh, did we just have another? Oh, man, you just cleaned up. Favor, congratulations.
That's why Marco didn't show up.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Thank you. Wow. Okay.
That's awesome.
I think
You'll see
I used
those.
up my luck for
You'll see
the
those
year.
prizes in your
I think I
wallet
used up-
by the end of the day.
I probably used up my own luck for the whole year for that alone. Thank you.
That was pretty extremely lucky.
It was. Damn, I never get lucky like that. Jeez.
I don't know if you noticed there was a pop-up ad at the bottom of that screen that I think was speaking to you after winning both of those. You need to talk to a wealth advisor.
I think so, definitely. I need to go have a proper conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like winning the lottery, I need to go have some money management classes or something.
Yeah, don't spend all that crown on a half a cup of coffee.
Oh, definitely not. What are we going to be talking about?
What are we moving on to with KROWN? I mean, KROWN Deck always has a little bit of a follow-up hangout session. It's become a hybrid, right? Because Fractally is new. Fractally has kind of got all of our attention. So we stay on that. But we just let the conversation wander. We usually build on what we're all up to, right?
Yeah, what have you guys been up to? Unfortunately, breakout rooms. I don't know what you guys said you have been doing for the past week, so I'm very interested to know.
Yeah, I think we've been working with Steve quite a bit. We use Steve's tool NFT backers to back all the Fractally or the Alien Worlds NFTs with KROWN and with Trillium. And while Dan said he had a little bit of time, but I'd like Dan to hear as well, since he wasn't in a room, and same with you, Saber, just some of the things that Steve's working on, the NFT backers, but there's something a little bit larger that he kind of dropped some alpha on us in the meeting with history stuff. So I think it's quite important and relevant. So Steve, if you could just share a bit, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah. So we did a soft launch of NFT backers in the beginning of July, and quickly got connected with your group to see about adding Trillium and KROWN tokens as additional backing. The primary reason that we did it is so that we could add silver backing, the LD2. I know Extra has been on these before. So I'm the co-founder of LD2 as well. So we wanted a tool to be able to do that. And as we were going through building it, I kept running into problems with the Atomic Assets APIs and tons of frustrations, both from uptime and reliability and speed to flexibility. There's just certain things that you can't do through the APIs, and it's really difficult to do on chain. And so what we did is we kind of created a prototype that pulled all the data that we could off of the chain and put it into an Elasticsearch database. And then we laid our APIs in front of that and started to look at this data, and we're starting to figure out lots of different ways that you can utilize this data. And in the process, sorry if you can hear my lawn guys in the background, but in the process, we discovered this is solving a solution or solving a problem that every dApp developer ever on Wax has encountered. So we wanted to see if we can make this a bigger project than just an NFT backers solution. And so at the beginning of July, I started drafting a white paper proposal that I was thinking of posting on the Wax development forums and going after a Wax grant proposal on it. And the more I started thinking about this, is such a huge infrastructure project. It touches every part of the Wax blockchain for Atomic Assets. Like every single collection would benefit from this. And the frustrating thing is it's not something that Atomic Assets, Atomic Hub is even thinking about, because they're so, no offense to larger collections like Alien Worlds, but they're so focused on that kind of stuff that they don't even care about this other stuff. It seems like the general thing that developers are told when they encounter problems is go spin up your own copy of the APIs and your own node, Wax node with state history. And it's absolutely unfeasible. It's the wrong solution. It's the wrong direction to go. So in doing this, we want to figure out how to get as much feedback as we can from the community and as many organizations on board, big and small, that would partner with us in this. And it doesn't even have to be financial partnership, because I think as we go through this, the money will be there because it's such an important problem to solve. But we really just want more visibility. We want more partners behind us as we go into the WAX development grant proposal stage and start to figure out how this should come together. And it's really my belief that if this doesn't happen, I don't think that atomic assets will be a viable solution in the next few years, because from an infrastructure perspective, it's just not capable of handling this kind of growth. We're talking 200 million NFTs in 2 years, and the amount of growth that happened just in the last 6 months is amazing. It's exciting, but from a infrastructure IT DevOps perspective, it is not sustainable using the current tools. So we want to figure out a way that we can really fix this and get other people on board and come up with a solution. I'll tell you this is the title of the project. It's the Atomic Assets Layer 2 Community API. So it's all about the community having a voice in this. Our goal is that we would build this, we would launch it, and then turn it over as an open source project for the community to manage, and figure out funding streams of how the infrastructure is funded along the way. But really the direction of this entire project going forward, even after it's launched, should be the community of developers saying, we need these features, we need these added now, and getting people involved to build that and to expand it. So
Yeah, that
really does kick ass. I mean, I was just on the site. It's pretty simple. I can see that it's got some room to expand. But I mean, when you bought cards, when I bought cards as a kid, you bought a pack. Bought a pack of cards. There was stuff that came with it, and that there was trading, and there was all this stuff in that. I view backing like that, in that you get the card, you get the thing, you get the game asset, and then like whatever bonus the developer wants to put on it, they can put on it like that. And it's pretty amazing. So
thanks. Yeah, and as I was building that and we started running into these problems, you know how you go into a project thinking, oh, this is what the project's about, this is what my goal is, this is going to be great. And then in doing that, you see something else way bigger. And that's kind of what this is to us. So there's the nftbackers.io site. We just set up labs.nftbackers.io that has a lot more information about this project and the white paper and things like that. I'll post that in the chat, but it's this is so huge because this is like the infrastructure of atomic assets future. I believe in NFT backers is a big part of bringing value to collections, all sorts of collections, and brings price stability. But right now, this is like consuming my my vision and my time at the moment, is figuring out how to replace these APIs. So it's a back end infrastructure that no one really sees, but it powers the entire ecosystem. So fun stuff.
Nice, nice.
So I was at a meeting on Tuesday just past called YYC Bitcoin. And this group is mostly about Bitcoin maximalism. And in Alberta, where I live, there is a lot of sort of, I don't know what, favorability around the attitude of proof of work. because the idea is that they want to use the trapped energy in Alberta, the cheap energy that is trapped, to run proof of work machines and sort of make a whole economic plan out of that. So this group is just throwing all the shit at the wall that they can find, just hoping some of it will stick, to say that NFTs are no good, Ethereum is no good, EOS is no, there's no such thing as a blockchain worth a damn other than Bitcoin. And I know that you can back an NFT with Bitcoin, right? And I know that you can do awesome things with stuff like token bonding curve, where people make a deposit in Bitcoin, you release a token according to a fixed price on the curve, according to a Bancor protocol. And there are cool things like that, right? How do you contend with that? What do you say to, I don't know what, to people in the chain wars who want to say something about, well, Wax isn't a real blockchain anyway, for example?
I have just one topic, and I could do it with stick figures, and I'd bring in, blockchain 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And 1.0 being a use case of, say, Bitcoin and Ripple, and a fungible token that's never broken. You're able to transfer that and send it. So that the first use case, and proof of work, excellent worked. Second one, Ethereum smart contracts, right? So just the ability, like those two first protocols didn't have that ability, right, to do smart contracts, right? So, and then the third one being more like EOS and Antelope, on its root base, having these governance functions and account structures, and just a little bit more diverse. So each one has a use, but to say blockchain 2.0 and 3.0 are useless because 1.0 is good enough. We could just look at enough use cases why you need a smart contract, and enough use cases why having governance and account structures to have easy multi-sigs on chain is useful for different communities. So if you're just in that silo that your whole community just needs that transfer of a token and that's it, fine. But yeah, there's just different iterations with different use cases. So to argue, if they get into an argument of why and that this is better, then yeah, I would just exit it and go, hey, it's not an argument. These are just some facts. And there's, if that's all you need to do, well, you don't need to use smart contracts or governance. Well, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, it's just and hey, what's 4.0 going to be, right? You know what I mean? It's going to be, something new. So there's always iterations. It's always evolving. Is every iteration going to last, and all the different flavors of that iteration going to work? Well, probably not, right? So it's all experiments, but the heart of it is the community members that have enough token distribution that are using those tools that show the greater world some value. So, it's going to play out, you know what I mean? We can't predict, which communities are going to use, iteration 1, 2, or 3, how that value is going to be spread. But yeah, I kind of see iteration 1, 2 just being, to make money on it. If it's just a money maker, it's kind of different. You know what I mean? You're hoping that someone's not as educated you to buy your bag off you so you can make the profits on flipping a token, right? And these smart contracts and NFTs just have so many different layers of value in them, right? You don't have to be a market trader to find value. And they've opened it up to everybody to be able to, directly communicate to your community without a middleman through NFTs and tokens and share value that way. So that'd be a couple of things I would say. But, some of these groups that are really tribalistic, there's sometimes it's not even worth talking about, right?
We've been in it from the start with EOS. We've been in it from the start. There's been contention with the comparison to Ethereum. And the only reason I asked, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have even asked. I almost regretted asking. Because I've been through these answers too much. It's just a headache, right? And we know the truth. We know it's bullshit. But the reason it came to mind is just because in the KROWN DAC meetings in the past, there have been times where other people in the group were also frustrated with Wax, right? And I just wanted to entertain the topic. Like, is there a real critique of Wax? Where are they at? What do you guys think? I are people able to take control of it adequately? Like Steve, you're working with an API to read the Box blockchain, so that you could connect assets and use them to say like they're a bundle. How are you finding that? Are you finding that like unreasonably difficult, or do you feel as though people can really take the tool and work with it?
I personally think it's a great tool. It's a great platform, the Wax platform. I don't work with it on a low enough level to say, you know, what problems I see with it. I kind of look at it as, yeah, it's a great solution. And it takes care of my problems. It allows me a lot of flexibility to build like I want. The issues when I was talking about the Atomic Assets API, that's like an existing layer 2 solution that has problems with how it was built, and needs to be fixed. But when it comes to the Wax blockchain, I love it. EOS IO technology is great. I love it. I came from the Ethereum camp. We launched our token, our ERC20 token on Ethereum, and it was, at the time that I was going through it, it was a development nightmare. I know that they've fixed a lot of that tooling, and you know they're moving to the whole proof of stake instead of proof of work to solve some of the gas issues. I agree with Dwayne, though, is that you get these people who are looking at these camps like well, you know, Bitcoin's the way or whatever, but they all have different features, and it depends on what you need. There's development things that might happen in an organization where somebody says, hey, we want to use blockchain. And really, when you look at it, the answer isn't blockchain. It's a MySQL database. They're looking at the wrong solution. And I've been doing software development for over 25 years, and it's so easy to get pulled into a myopic viewpoint of this camp that I have to use this solution to solve my problems, and not look at the bigger picture of all the options that you have, that you could use these technologies in tandem and get them to work together to solve a bigger problem. One of the things I'm reminded of, I don't know if you remember that I'm a Linux user, so I haven't used Microsoft Windows on my computers in 15 years probably. But back in the day, one of the Microsoft executives said, Linux is a cancer. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that was like their line. They're like, Linux is a cancer. It's going to ruin the world. We cannot have this stuff on our computers. So fast forward 15 years, they have Linux distributions that Microsoft is putting out. You know, they interoperate with it. They built their PowerShell to work on Linux. So the attitude has changed because they've realized, wait a minute, Linux isn't a cancer. It's just different. It works different, and they actually pulled some of the, you know, the way that the Linux kernel runs, and have implemented some of those ideologies into how Microsoft operating system runs. So I think it's dangerous just to say, it's got to be this way and no other way. I think there are ideas that pop up in layer 3 blockchains that are amazing, and I think there's uses for, you know, layer 1, or sorry, the 1.0 blockchains versus 3.0 blockchains. I think there's a lot of ideas, and fast forward 10, 15 years from now, and you're going to see a lot of these little pieces coming together to build new solutions that we're like, kind of looking back on it like that comment, Linux is a cancer, you know?
We might even see in 15 years from now, like a 10.0 blockchain, you know? But yeah, like, let me just add a little my thoughts in. Yeah, like Dawn said, you have all these generations. I call them generations instead of 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I like to say generation is easier. So we have all these generations of blockchain, and we started out with just Bitcoin and Bitcoin, like Bitcoin Ripple. Person can only really do one thing. You can only really transfer the token. You can only really buy the token, and essentially that's it. That's the limitation of a layer on the blockchain. Then you get a layer 2, like the Ethereum, that has more functionality. It's smart And layer 3 comes along with being more scalable. I think that's really the difference that comes with layer 3s and the previous change, because Ethereum really isn't scalable. If Ethereum was scalable, then we wouldn't have 100 layer 2 on top of Ethereum, because that's essentially what they're doing. Polygon's just there because Ethereum can't run everything. And then you get all of the others. I can't remember all of the layer 2s that's on top of Ethereum. They all there because Ethereum can only do so much. Once it goes past a certain point, then Ethereum is basically broken. But then you get things like Wax that works on a completely different basis, in a sense, compared to how Ethereum runs with its gas and paying your gas fees. With Wax, it's how much can you stake? If you stake, then you are able to basically do more, in a sense, but it's not like you're going to be favored over someone else. You're still going to get your transaction done, and it's not about throwing more Ethereum on it in order to get your transaction done faster, which is really amazing. Then I suppose what I'm seeing as the next generation also is what you guys, what Steve is doing with the NFT backers, bridging off-chain and chain together. Because currently, I think I've mentioned it before in one of the meetings, so the previous meeting that I joined, the current problem is not that, in a sense, it is that too much things are being created digitally. However, all of these things are going to be created either way. The problem comes in that you can't really just equate everything to a dollar value, which is the current problem. Everyone just equates something to the dollar value, and that is a spiral that's just going to end badly in any case, because the dollar depreciates over time. It does not increase, it goes down. The worth of the dollar is always going to go down. So if you're going to equate something to the dollar, it's always just going to continue on a spiral going down infinitely. And that is basically what we've seen with every chain, every token, everything. It's not going to stay the same, because there's never going to be the same amount of dollars as when it was created. 5 seconds later, there's going to be 10 million more dollars, in a sense. So it's not going to hold that value. But bridging the chains with reality is basically the best way to bring actual value. I was trying to have a conversation with someone from OpenGill Finance, Kavinci. He's one of the creators of OpenGill Finance. They work mostly on completely decentralized chains. And I'm trying to find a way to, I'm still busy setting up a meeting with him, but essentially, I see the problem is that a lot of companies and all of these things, they create tokens and then they just leave it. They just leave it to the community to basically add value to it. And that's where the problem comes in, because most people don't understand how chains work. They don't understand how the worth of a token works. You add money into a token, the token will gradually increase in value. You remove money from that token, from the exchange, then the token is going to decrease in value, which people don't understand. And this also relates to how many of the token is there, which, I mean, all of us here understand that, but most people don't understand that, and that lack of knowledge causes a lot of problems, as I've seen in many
communities. It allows people to make false pretense, because the crowd, the wisdom of the crowd, needs to know, broadly speaking, needs to be familiar with how to discover the answer in order for a leadership group to be unable to continue sort of repeating a falsehood. Because there's a joke expression. They say, wise guys play dumb, right? It's a joke in America to say, like, the wise guys know the way of the world. They know the secret, right? The wise guys know the answer. They know the secret. They know the way, but they act like they don't. They'll never give you information. They'll give you a canned response. They're very good at keeping their secret and very good at sticking to their story. And there's a difference between people not understanding a thing versus knowing what's good for them and just sort of peddling that line. And so we need the whole average crowd to know what's bullshit and what's not, in order for there to be a chance at clearing the air on sort of, you know, a half-true narrative. for that's broadly speaking. I mean, I know it pertains in the chain wars, the way that people misconstrue their competitor a little bit and throw sort of they throw a half truth of a critique out there to say, like, this is, you know, oversimplified, this is not decentralized. What does that even mean? There's a whole measurement, there's a whole analysis to say what's decentralized and what's not. The average citizen can't tell. What do you mean, is it decentralized or is it not, right? I'm trusting an expert, and the expert says, one expert says it is, one expert says it isn't. So I don't know, maybe that's not something to solve in this group, but it's like, that's my week. That's where I'm at this week, because I know there's a whole world out there who gets it. It's just that I still have to live in my own backyard, right, with the people around here and their attitudes, and this is who I work with. So
here's something just to throw out there. There's a lot of this infighting and tribalism when it comes to programming languages. So even my son has been programming for like 3-4 years. He's 14 now, and you know, 14-year-olds are not opinionated at all. So he'll come into my office and he'll see what technologies I'm using, and I'm like, I'm building a TypeScript, and I just learned React. It's pretty cool. And he'll look at it and like, yeah, but it's fundamentally wrong. It's because of this. He watches a lot of the YouTube's videos, you know. So people get in arguments about what's wrong with that programming language or this programming language. But I challenge you to go to a website, have anybody, like 99% of the population, go to a website and say, what programming language did they use to build this? Right? No one knows that. No one cares. There's ways to figure it out through, you know, browser inspection tools to figure out, oh, I think they're using these technologies, but no one cares. They just want to book their flights. They just want to, you know, use their bank account. They don't care how it happens. They just want it to happen. And really the only people who get all up in arms about, oh, it's not decentralized or it's decentralized, those are the developers and the people who understand how the inner workings happen. But the general public who is going to use this stuff long term, they could care less. Couldn't care less.
They shouldn't, right? There's no blame to be had. There's no change to be made there. The world is too complicated. People use stuff, they don't need to know how it works. They just need to know how to use it. And that's normal, right? That's like specialization of trade. That's part of the reason for like the proliferation of so many different goods and services, is that we have a niche expert who really understands it. It needs to be a pillar of trust. So if anyone cares to know, they can find out. But it's totally fine that most people will never know, will never care to know, and never need to either. Except that it's frustrating for us because we wish they did, so that we could shut down the bullshit.
Right. It's the same reason everybody's still using Ethereum and paying gas fees and believing that they're going to go proof of stake here any second. He's been saying that for years.
We didn't get a moment to say, Dan just typed in the chat that he's got to sign off. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but I knew you were only going to be a second. I was going to say, hey, Dan's got to go, but he already left.
Ah, no worries.
Yep.
Bye, Dan.
I like to try to offer a word to somebody right before they go. Usually there's something that they'd like to leave us with. You know, you're right though, that maybe the answer to this is who cares? Time will sort it out. Let time do the work on this one. DAC Cafe, Steve, I'm sure you remember, DAC Cafe is focused on bridging the physical with the digital. So I'm like a walking encyclopedia for ways of bridging the digital and physical. What you've done is a big step for that. Truly, maybe the biggest, among the biggest in the space. Or there are things like land DAOs, and there are things like other types of marketplace, right? Like retail marketplace and ride sharing, and that all bridges physical and digital. But if we could, I'd like to try to take our conversation there for like, how does our space, maybe how does Fractally or how does EOS incrementally move into existing industries?
I think that's part of something that I'm not the first to coin this phrase, but NFT 2.0. Extra and I started talking about that and using that terminology to describe the next generation of NFTs, which are not just, Bored Ape and things that you can trade or crypto punks, but they're something that is somehow useful in other ways. And, we were discussing recently with somebody who was trying to create NFTs that are attaching carbon credits to these NFTs. And those carbon credits are referencing some specific piece of land or acreage. That's real world things that are very useful. It's not useful to me personally, but there's lots of things technology wise in the world that aren't useful to me personally. But the more that we can advance it and show capabilities of being able to expand from just a simple NFT thing into value backed, or it's highly functional. Like, look at all the things that you can do with this NFT, and maybe even eventually they don't even know it's an NFT. That becomes almost more the decentralized, centralized type technology terms, fungible, non-fungible. No one cares. You just have the ability to do this, and no one can come in and alter the fact that land is tied to this product somehow. Different things like that. So
that is a wonderful possible use case, and it's because of the way it fits. Because if you're familiar with carbon credits, they're qualitative, right? It's not a standard commodity. That the way carbon credits work in Canada, at least, is that over time, the carbon credit value can increase or decrease. It gets measured periodically, and that there's a whole list of requirements that are required of it coming in addition to coming as novel, coming as like unexpected land use, and that what people do with carbon credits is bundle them to average out their risk of being downgraded in the future, because it's a matter of tons of carbon per year that they're valued at. And so every year it's like, did you absorb the same amount of carbon per year? Some systems begin accumulating more carbon over time, and so will be a better asset in the world of carbon credit performance as time goes on, and some will downgrade, right? Some will get saturated and sort of run their course on absorbing new carbon. And so they are qualitative and they're contentious. You can imagine how contentious it gets when somebody plants a bunch of trees, right? They got a commercial property, let's say they own a mall. Let's just say they own a mall. And on their mall, they have a fair amount of land, and they planted like 1,000 trees. And for 1,000 trees, they're supposed to absorb, say, 5 tons of carbon per year. So the carbon credit should be worth like $150 per year. And so what they would do with that carbon credit, sometimes they would sell the credit for 120, saying like, look, this is an asset worth $150 a year. We want the net present value now, so we'll sell the whole thing for like $350. And then the investor, the speculator, is saying, I'll invest $350 now, I'll receive $150 per year. That's pretty, like, it looks like this good carbon credit asset is going to perform. So good investment, I'll buy that carbon credit. What the inspector's report says and the performance of the land is something that we could put to Fractally, potentially, to evaluate the merits of a carbon credit project before they go to market, to price them, to give some price discovery for them, to evaluate their risk or their characteristics. I don't know, to recommend bundling arrangements, right? Because you try to bundle different types of carbon credits that come from different areas together. Like you do one algae project with one reforestation project, maybe with building retrofits, right? Because they're all different types. Building retrofits are most likely to get depreciated over time. Reforestation is most likely to appreciate more over time, and algae projects kind of stay level, but they have costs. EOS is carbon neutral already. In Alberta, that's a bad word, but I've been rocking it my whole life here. Like I'm a solar panel salesman in Alberta. So, you know, I know the world of carbon credits and the way they're treated here. It's like people here will go to the hilt to take issue with the existence of a carbon tax. And then without realizing the irony of it, in like the next breath, talk about how well they're doing on carbon credit training. They'll get it eventually.
I wrote a Medium article to kind of promote the Atomic Assets Community API project, and it's a really boring title, but I said wax blockchain carbon neutral atomic assets, decidedly not, because the running thing in their development forum is, oh, you're having problems, spin up a whole bunch more servers and copy the entirety of the atomic assets data off chain and do it again. And every time they do that, it's like 200 gigs worth of data and, you know, $2,000 of server costs a month in a data center someplace. So they're actually actively encouraging a very carbon positive development community. And so I was just kind of poking at them, and I, just for fun, I was going to their website, to Atomic Hub website, and you can go and check it out. It scrolls through different phrases right now, and it says the eco-friendly NFT platform, and I was like, oh my gosh, they actually have that on their website. So I put a screenshot of that into the article. But
We need to know that stuff. I think that is a mover, but it's also a divider, you know? And hey, whatever, you can't get them all. I think that having a network effect that is focused on something like that, it's a strong use case. And there's a pain point here. There's a pain point to solve, because people who own carbon credits, it's out of their hand. Out of their hands that in the future, the tax might change. If the tax changes, then the whole thing is kaput, right? In the future, the inspection requirements might change. And if the inspections requirement changes, then their project assessment will change. And every 3 years to get a new inspection and who knows what, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think that there's a pain point to solve in terms of human consensus around the value of absorbing carbon. We thought that you have to sign off, but the microphone angle isn't quite coming through loud.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, this won't let me turn to my normal good. Anyway, you have to sign off, but Stephen, I was wondering if I could interview you on my Building the Metaverse podcast.
absolutely, I would love it.
Are you on Telegram?
I am. I'm not very good at Telegram. It's you see my last name there, Brentro?
Yep. Yep.
So it's S Brentro is my username. Yeah, but that would be great.
All right, I just sent you a message.